There are three specific salary levels where people get financially destroyed. Not by bad luck, not by emergencies, by the salary itself. And the trap is almost invisible until you're already inside it, earning more than you ever have and somehow feeling more financially anxious than when you were broke. I'm Astrid. And before we go any further, I want you to meet someone. Her name is Jordan. She's 36. She's had 4 salary increases in the last 8 years. She earns almost double what she made at 27. She has a retirement account she rarely checks, a car payment that made sense when she got the promotion, and a lifestyle that quietly expanded every single time her income did. She isn't reckless. She isn't irresponsible. By every external measure, she looks like someone who has figured it out. Her net worth is roughly the same as it was 5 years ago. Jordan isn't unusual. Jordan is what happens when income growth and lifestyle growth run at exactly the same speed for long enough that the race becomes invisible. Fast forward 10 years. 2 people. Same industry. Similar salaries the whole way through. One of them has built something real. The other is still one bad month away from crisis, wondering how that's possible at their income level. The difference between those 2 outcomes isn't intelligence. It isn't luck. It's whether they fell into one of 3 traps that are specifically designed to consume every raise they ever received. 3 traps. 3 salary levels. And a psychological mechanism behind each one that nobody has any financial incentive to explain to you. Let me start with something that should be obvious, but apparently isn't, because the evidence suggests most people never actually internalize it. More money doesn't fix a broken system. If the system you're operating inside converts every dollar of income growth into lifestyle expansion before it can compound into anything, then more income doesn't build wealth. It builds a more expensive version of the same financial position you already had. Different number on the paycheck. Identical financial foundation underneath. Research on household financial stress consistently shows that income increases do not reliably reduce financial anxiety. There are specific income thresholds where stress actually increases as salary goes up. Not because higher earners are doing worse in an absolute sense, but because higher income triggers spending behavior changes that frequently outpace the income growth itself. The financial industry calls this lifestyle inflation. But that name makes it sound like a minor budgeting miscalculation, like you spent a little more on groceries this month. The reality is something significantly more structural. Lifestyle inflation isn't just spending more as you earn more. It's a complete psychological recalibration of what you believe you deserve, what you consider normal for someone at your income level, and what you silently assume is appropriate given where you've arrived professionally. And every time that recalibration happens, it closes the wealth-building gap that the income increase was supposed to create. The reason this matters is that income is the most visible part of your financial life. It's the number you can point to, compare, reference. But income is not wealth. Income is potential. And potential means nothing if the system around you converts every dollar of that potential into consumption before it ever has a chance to compound. The trap doesn't happen all at once. It happens in stages. Predictable stages. At 3 specific income thresholds that almost everyone passes through on a conventional career path. Jordan is about to walk into all 3 of them. Trap 1, the credibility threshold. $45,000 to $65,000. Jordan is 27. She just got promoted. Her new salary is $58,000, which is more money than she has ever made in her life, and she feels it. Not just financially. Psychologically. Like she has finally arrived somewhere real. That feeling of arrival is exactly what makes this a trap. Before this income level, most people are in pure survival mode. Budget constraints are obvious and unavoidable. There's not a lot of room for financial self-delusion because the numbers make reality impossible to ignore. But somewhere in that $45,000 to $65,000 range, the survival pressure lifts. There's slack. There's breathing room. And the brain, which has been operating under financial scarcity for years, does what brains do when scarcity suddenly lifts. It spends. Not recklessly. Sensibly. By every normal social standard. Jordan moves out of the apartment she shares with 2 roommates and gets her own place. It's not extravagant. It's just hers, and she can actually afford it now. She buys a car that starts reliably because she needs to get to work and she can make the payments. She eats at restaurants that don't make her feel slightly embarrassed. She buys clothes that actually fit. She gets a gym membership and starts spending on experiences instead of just surviving them. Every single one of those decisions is individually defensible. Collectively, they create a new baseline, a new floor, a new minimum acceptable standard for her life. And here's where the mathematical damage begins. Every dollar that goes toward establishing that new baseline is a dollar not compounding. And at this income level, the compounding opportunity is actually enormous, because the gap between what Jordan now earns and what she used to spend is the widest it will ever be in her career. That gap is the wealth-building window, and it is closing faster than she realizes. It typically closes within 3 to 6 months. After that, lifestyle creep has absorbed the raise. The new salary disappears into the new normal. And Jordan is right back to where she was financially before the promotion, just with a nicer apartment and a car payment and a baseline that now requires her full income to maintain. Lifestyle grows faster than income if you let it. And Jordan just let it. Reasonably. Justifiably. Exactly the way almost everyone does at this salary level. The first trap isn't the most damaging of the three. It happens before the major commitments. Before the mortgage and the kids and the fully assembled infrastructure of an expensive life. It's still possible to escape without catastrophic consequences. But most people don't escape. They carry the pattern directly into the second trap, which is where things get significantly harder to undo. Trap 2, the identity income. $85,000 to $120,000. Jordan is 31 now. Another promotion. Another raise. She's earning $96,000 and she feels, genuinely, like she has worked hard for this and deserves to live accordingly. She's right. And that rightness is precisely what makes the second trap so effective. Because at this income level, something changes in how other people perceive Jordan and how Jordan perceives herself. She's solidly upper middle class by most measures. And the social signaling expectations that come with that status are real, constant, and extraordinarily expensive. Watch what happens to Jordan's life at $96,000. She and her partner buy a house in a neighborhood that makes sense for their income level, which means it's a good neighborhood with a corresponding mortgage. They get a second car because 2 incomes, 2 schedules, 1 car doesn't work anymore. Her company has client dinners and professional events where showing up looking like you earn $96,000 is an unspoken requirement, so the wardrobe upgrades. Her colleagues take real vacations and talk about them at work, and the social fabric of her professional life now includes a travel standard that her $58,000 self would have considered aspirational. None of these individual choices are wrong. But something has shifted. At her old salary, spending more than she should felt uncomfortable. Financially uncomfortable. Like a clear signal that something needed to change. At $96,000, overspending doesn't feel like a problem. It feels like being normal for her income bracket. The social reinforcement is constant. The people around her are making identical decisions at identical income levels. The feedback she receives from the environment is that she's doing everything right. And here's the number that should genuinely disturb you. Research consistently shows that people earning between $85,000 and $120,000 save at roughly the same rate as people earning $50,000. The spending simply expands to absorb the income. The person earning $120,000 and spending $112,000 has less genuine financial security than someone earning $60,000 and saving $10,000 per year. Because financial security is not about income. It's about what happens to the gap. Your salary grows. Your freedom doesn't. Jordan at 34 has a beautiful home, 2 reliable cars, an active social life, and a net worth that is not meaningfully different from what it was at 27. The income grew. The freedom didn't. Because the lifestyle consumed the gap every single time one appeared. She doesn't discover this consciously. She discovers it through a trigger. Her company restructures. Her role gets eliminated. She has 3 months of severance and a lifestyle that was built for $96,000 in continuous income. The house is suddenly a weight. The car payments are threats. The savings she was going to build once things settled down are not there. The entire structure that felt like achievement reveals itself to have been consumption financed by income rather than wealth built on assets. This is what produces the broke 6-figure earner. The person who looks, by every external metric, like someone who has made it. And who has essentially nothing beneath the surface that would survive a serious disruption. Most people in the second trap discover it exactly this way. Through the disruption. Through the moment when the income pauses and the spending doesn't, and the gap between those two things becomes impossible to look away from. But the second trap, as expensive as it is, still has exits. The lifestyle infrastructure is real, but it's not permanent. Houses can be refinanced or sold. Spending structures can be redesigned. The identity can be challenged and changed. It requires honesty and discomfort, but it's genuinely possible. The third trap is the one designed to catch the people who are smart enough to avoid the first two. Trap 3. The sophistication trap. $180,000 and above. Jordan is 42. She rebuilt after the restructuring. She made changes. She started investing seriously in her mid-30s. She is a financial advisor now. She maxes out her 401k. By conventional measures, she is doing what financially responsible high earners should do. Her new role pays $210,000. And something subtle and expensive is beginning to happen. At this income level, the rules of conventional financial wisdom start to feel almost quaint. You're contributing the maximum to retirement. You have investment accounts. You have a professional managing part of your portfolio. The idea that you might be making fundamental financial mistakes feels slightly insulting given your income and your apparent sophistication. More money doesn't fix a broken system. But at this income level, the system is so well-dressed that it no longer looks broken. Watch what happens to Jordan's life at $210,000. The vacation home comes first. Not an extravagance, a reasonable investment in property and in her family, having somewhere they actually go together. The kids' private school tuition, because she can afford to give them that advantage, and why wouldn't she? The financial support to her parents, because she's the successful one in the family, and that comes with responsibilities. The giving that feels appropriate and important at her income level. The business investment that a colleague brought to her attention that seems manageable given what she earns. The premium version of everything, healthcare, travel, food, because she's worked hard enough long enough that the budget version feels like a step backward. None of these are wrong decisions. Each one is defensible. Together they create a spending structure that is both large and rigid. And rigid spending structures at any income level are the enemy of genuine wealth building. Here's the financial reality that high earners almost never examine directly. Research on households earning over $200,000 consistently shows net worths that are surprisingly modest relative to career earnings. The math, when you trace it, is almost always the same. Income was high. Spending was comprehensive. The gap was smaller than it appeared. And compound time, the most essential ingredient for wealth building, was spent maintaining a lifestyle rather than building an asset base. Jordan at 42 has more income than she has ever had. She also has more financial complexity than she has ever had, multiple accounts, multiple obligations, multiple things that require the income to function. She's managed and sophisticated and also, quietly, dependent on the paycheck in a way that doesn't feel like dependence, because the numbers are large. That's the sophistication trap. You're smart enough to know the rules of wealth building. You've built a life that makes consistently following those rules inconvenient. And the income is high enough that the gap between what you have and what you should have is easy to rationalize away. Until it isn't. Here's the thing about all three traps that makes them so reliably effective. They don't feel like traps while you're inside them. Jordan's apartment upgrade at 27 felt like a reasonable reward for hard work. Her lifestyle at $96,000 felt like the natural expression of her professional achievement. Her spending at $210,000 feels like responsible high-income living with appropriate priorities. Every trap felt like the right decision at the time. Validated by people around her making identical choices. Comfortable in the way that familiar things are comfortable even when they're costing you something you can't see yet. This is why telling people to simply spend less doesn't work as advice. It addresses the symptom without touching the mechanism. The mechanism isn't behavior. It's belief. Specifically, it's the belief about what income is for. Most people, operating at an unconscious level, believe the purpose of income is to fund the life that their income level implies they should have. This is the trap. This is the engine underneath all three. This is why raises don't produce wealth, why six-figure earners feel financially stressed, why sophisticated investors with high incomes look back at 30 years of earnings and can't fully explain where it all went. The people who escape all three traps believe something different. They believe the purpose of income is to build the asset base that will eventually replace the need for income entirely. That single definitional shift changes everything. It changes what you celebrate. Instead of celebrating the raise, you celebrate the investment contribution you made with the raise. It changes what you protect. Instead of protecting your lifestyle from disruption, you protect the gap between income and spending. It changes what you fear. Instead of fearing looking less successful than your income implies, you fear building a life that requires your income to function. The trap isn't that you earn money and spend money. The trap is that you believe the spending is the point. Jordan is still fixable. At every stage she was still fixable. That's the part one want you to hold on to. At 27, before the baseline locked in, she had the most obvious window. The gap between old expenses and new income was right there, visible, actionable. A simple decision to direct that gap into investments before the lifestyle absorbed it would have compounded into something extraordinary by her 40s. At 31, inside the identity income trap, the window was harder, but still open. Redesigning the spending structure to reflect values rather than social performance. Choosing the life she actually wanted over the life her income bracket implied she should have. At 42, inside the sophistication trap, the window requires the most honesty. Looking directly at the gap between what she earns and what she has. Accepting that financial complexity is not the same as financial progress. Simplifying. Protecting the gap. Letting compound interest do what it was always designed to do. 3 traps. All of them optional. None of them inevitable. But all of them require recognizing that the mechanism exists before you can choose differently. The salary traps work because the financial world around you, the marketing, the social norms, the peer expectations, the identity signals, is specifically engineered to convert your income into consumption as efficiently as possible. Every raise is a target. Every promotion is an opportunity for the trap to recalibrate. Escaping doesn't require dramatic sacrifice. It requires one decision, made clearly and revisited consistently. Is my income building freedom? Or is it building a life that needs itself to survive? The answer to that question, compounded over 20 years, is the difference between the two people we talked about at the beginning. Same industry, similar salaries, completely different outcomes. Jordan can still be the first one. So can you.